to put veterans with service-related injuries on a path to rehabilitation instead of incarceration is once again before the legislature. Military veterans and advocates recently provided testimony before a key Senate committee.
In 2015, I first came to Veterans Court for a marijuana violation. It was I had a 5th degree possession of marijuana, so it was think about the lowest felony possession that you can have for marijuana. I was over the threshold of 48 grams or something like that in my home. And I had a choice of I could either go to jail for 3 years or I could go to Veterans Court. And at the time, there was the only thing that was advantageous for me about going to Veterans Court was that I wouldn't have to go to jail for 3 years for some marijuana. So at the time I went, and it hooked me up with the VA.
We come home, and when I did after 2 deployments, I had about a year before I went to law school. During that time, it was difficult to find a job. The recession was starting to kind of get a little better, but it was difficult. So for me to come into the society and come from a position where I was leading people as a squad leader to applying for jobs that, in my opinion, were well below what I was probably capable of doing was frustrating. Also, there's a tendency, I believe, across the board when you talk to infantrymen and combat arms men that are directly involved and engaged in combat, that you naturally don't have a lot of coping mechanisms when you get out of the military. I think the most frequent one and one that I used quite often was to drink alcohol.
I recognize from Mr. Miller's testimony that the loss, the frustration, those feelings of abandonment, not knowing what's going on. I don't remember 1983 because of my solution to my confusion and hurt was to be completely drunk and high or stoned.
The Hells Angels were founded by disaffected World War II veterans. We need to get these veterans with mental illnesses from service connection out of prisons where they can be recruited and radicalized, and instead into treatment to prevent the violence. This is a public safety issue.
Senator Roger Chamberlain is carrying a bill that would provide guidance to courts to establish restorative justice programs statewide, and I spoke with him this week. Your bill would provide guidance to courts to expand veterans' restorative justice programs throughout the state. What exactly do these programs do?
Well, they are designed to assist veterans who have suffered if they get accepted in the diversion program through the court process. The programs are existing, and the whole process, the whole idea behind this is to help veterans who have service-related disorders, disabilities, problems, to find a path back to a healthy path back to life and a normal life. They have been impacted by things out of their control, so our goal is to help them get back on the right path. And happy, successful, prosperous life where they should be. It was no fault of their own that they may have suffered some trauma in the military that wasn't their fault.
And you're talking about PTSD or traumatic brain injuries or other things like that that are affecting their return to civilian life? Right.
Those sorts of traumas that, exactly, yes. In a nutshell, yes. There's some others, but yeah, that's it. That's the idea.
So 8 veterans courts already exist in Minnesota. Why is a bill necessary to expand the program, particularly if, areas of greater Minnesota aren't required to implement the program?
Well, mandates are a problem, but where we can find some area of approval, of agreement is good. This is a permissive policy. It just creates consistent standard guidelines for the courts throughout the state to follow and use. The federal government has a standard as well, and we've planned to reconcile some of those differences when we go to judiciary. But it's permissive set of common standards and goals for the courts and for the courts to follow, and that's kind of the idea.
Now, you've said that this bill will actually save taxpayers millions of dollars, and if veterans are accepted into the program, then the treatment is provided by the VA system. Is the VA network sufficient across the state of Minnesota to provide the services that these veterans would need?
I can't speak specifically for the VA, but the idea that the desire would be anywhere they could get the help, they could get the help. I would not envision someone from, Grand Forks having to go all the way to St. Cloud to get some sort of assistance. Every county has a veteran service officer that helps, bridge those gaps and manage those difficulties to a certain extent. So I guess I'm sorry, I couldn't remember the first part of your question, or if that was the total question. I think I can't speak for the VA. I don't know their capacity, but again, the goal is where possible to find these veterans, keep them out of the judicial system, out of the corrections process, if that's at all possible, for minor offenses.
Based on testimony before the committee, it appears that many of the veterans who have found themselves in trouble also are suffering from substance use disorders. How common is addiction driving that encounter with the criminal justice system?
Well, yes, I can't say exactly what that number is, but this isn't just for, it's for minor crimes. It's not for serious crimes. So there could be other things they get involved in that are not necessarily addiction, drug related, but a good amount of those will be. I've talked to law enforcement and others over the year in my own experience in working different places. The vast majority of problems through the ER and with police officers is usually drug related, alcohol, and other illegal drugs. So I guess the prevalence would be about the same for military personnel, veterans.
One testifier pointed out that the Hells Angels motorcycle gang was founded by disaffected World War II veterans, and he said that this program is essential because it prevents the radicalization of veterans. Another testifier spoke of being a leader when he was in the service and then coming back to the States as a civilian and struggling to find work. Does society need to do a better job accepting the accomplishments and experiences of service members in helping them find valuable work when they return to civilian society?
I believe that, service, I was in the military, 2 different branches, 2 different times, and most come out doing fine, and they're able to find employment. And a lot of veterans, in the years I've served on different committees, subcommittees, and organizations, that sometimes it's hard to find military vets to fill these programs because most vets are doing well, but that doesn't mean that there aren't a number that we should help. It's a voluntary system. You volunteer to go in. You know what you're getting into, but sometimes things out of your control. You come out and it didn't work out for you so well. So there are a number of them that have that problem. So to that extent, I believe we should do what we can for any citizen to help them out through these rough patches, whether it's veterans or not. It just so happens to be an area that has not been addressed directly. So as far as the Restorative Act, we're focusing on that. As far as getting jobs for people, wherever we can help get people jobs, that's important. Again, this county service veterans officers help with that process too. So most come out fine, but there are a number that still need help, and we should do what we can for them or any citizen that are struggling for reasons beyond their control.
Now, as you know, this measure passed the Senate 3 times during special sessions in August and September and October. This bill passed in the House back in 2019. So there's still something that continues to stymie process on this bill. Representative Marion O'Neill, a Republican of Maple Lake, issued a statement in November that said she believes more work is still needed on this bill because it doesn't require successful treatment of programs. And she raised concerns about victims, I think, in cases of domestic violence. Does more work need to be done on this bill?
There are some fixes we're going to address in the Judiciary Committee, some amendments and some fixes. But I love Representative O'Neill, a friend, colleague, of course, but I had a conversation with her and I simply disagree with that statement. First, the program does not, you cannot get in the program if you are charged with a violent crime. Secondly, the program does require, if you do get in it, the program is strict and it does require you fulfill all the obligations of the program. And if you do not fulfill those obligations, then you're back into the regular judicial process. So 2 points again. You can't get in it if you've committed certain violent crimes. Secondly, you are required, if you are in it, to finish all the steps. If you don't, you're back into the system. As far as victims are concerned, the victim services are there, whether you're a victim of a veteran in this process or a victim of any other criminal, you have those services. So I will talk to her some more, see what the problems are. But the House, I'll say this: the House could have passed that bill. They just they should have passed it. They could have passed it. They had the majority, and they didn't do it. Nonetheless, we're confident it's going to pass. We're confident we're going to work out the problems. We're confident that people will be protected adequately, and that the program will work for a number of veterans that don't need to be in the system. And these, again, are not serious physical violent crimes that are going to be addressed. They will not be allowed in.
Senator Roger Chamberlain, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. We'll be back in studio soon.